Jason was just a regular kid living in the small town of Maplewood. Everyone knew him for his bright smile and kind heart, but that all changed after the scary incident in the woods. One cool autumn evening, Jason was walking home from school through the woods near Maplewood. He always took a shortcut through the trees to get home faster. Usually the woods were calm and peaceful, but that day felt very different. Everything was completely silent. No leaves rustling, no birds chirping. Jason felt a chill run down his back, but he kept walking a little faster. Halfway through the woods, Jason noticed a dark, odd shape on the ground. He got curious and went over to look closer. It was a big, broken crate covered in weird symbols. As he bent down to inspect it, a cold, clammy hand shot out from inside the crate and grabbed his wrist. Jason screamed, but no sound came out in the silent woods. He tried pulling away, but the grip was too strong. Then he felt a sharp pain as something bit his arm. Everything went black. Hours later, Jason woke up lying on the damp forest floor. His head throbbed and his vision was blurry. When he looked at his bitten arm, the wound was nasty. Pus was oozing out and it was turning green. He felt dizzy and weak, but managed to stumble his way home. His parents were frantic with worry by then. They rushed him to the town doctor, who cleaned and bandaged the bite but had no idea what caused it. "Just keep an eye on him. Bring him back if his condition gets worse," the doctor said. That night, Jason spiked a burning fever. His dreams were filled with terrifying shadows and whispers. When he woke up, he was drenched in sweat. His room looked darker somehow, and sunlight stung his eyes. His skin had turned pale and cold. Over the next few days, Jason's condition got worse and worse. He avoided his friends, not wanting them to see the ghastly wound spreading across his arm. He couldn't eat anything. The smells of food made him sick. His parents felt helpless watching their once happy son deteriorate. One night, the pain became unbearable for Jason. He felt an overwhelming hunger, but not for food. Something deeper, more primal. He tried pushing the urges away, but they only grew stronger. Jason stumbled out of bed, feeling driven by instincts he couldn't control. He found himself at the edge of the woods again. The moonlight cast eerie shadows everywhere. Jason thought he heard whispers calling his name. Moving almost in a trance, he walked deeper into the dark forest. His senses felt heightened. He could hear every crunch of leaves, every small movement. Suddenly, Jason was surrounded by twisted, decaying figures emerging from the shadows. They had glowing eyes and looked almost human, but not quite. Jason felt a strange connection to them, a kinship that both terrified and comforted him at the same time. One of the figures, a tall, skeletal man with hollow eyes, stepped towards Jason. "Welcome," he rasped in a dry voice. "You are one of us now." Jason tried to speak, but no words would come out. The figure reached out and touched Jason's forehead. A cold wave washed over his body, making him convulse and drop to the ground. Searing pain shot through him as his bones twisted and shifted. His skin felt like it was stretching and ripping. Jason was transforming into one of them, a zombie. When the transformation finished, Jason stood among the undead horde, his mind clouded by an insatiable hunger. The leader pointed a decaying hand towards Maplewood. "Feed," he commanded. The zombies moved in silence through the woods towards the edge of town. Maplewood's residents were all asleep, completely unaware of the horror approaching their homes. The undead crept quietly through the dark streets, looking for their first victims. Jason found himself standing outside his own house. He looked up at his parents' bedroom window and could hear them breathing slowly in their sleep. The hunger surged within him, an almost irresistible urge. He battled against it, but the instinct was too overpowering. Jason entered the house, creeping upstairs towards his parents' room. The door creaked as he pushed it open. His parents stirred slightly but didn't wake up. For a brief moment, Jason's human memories flickered. He saw their loving faces and felt a pang of sadness. But then, the ravenous hunger took over. He lunged at them, and their screams filled the room. The next morning, the town of Maplewood woke to a nightmare scene. Homes had been broken into, with blood smeared on walls. Many people were simply gone, vanished without a trace. The townspeople were gripped by shock and disbelief. Search parties were formed, but they found no sign of Jason or the other missing people. Days stretched into weeks, and the horrors eventually faded into uneasy memories for Maplewood's residents. But the woods remained eerily silent, filled with dark whispers and eerie shadows. Some people claim they can still hear the lost soul's cries at night if they listen closely. Jason himself was never seen again, yet the legend of the zombie boy lived on as a cautionary tale to keep kids out of those woods after dark. And in the lightless depths of the forest, Jason continued roaming with his undead pack, forever consumed by an insatiable hunger and waiting for their next unfortunate victims to stumble across their path.